In September of 2011, Farm.tv journeyed out to the Cypress Hills in southeastern Alberta with Melissa Thompson, a graduate student doing a Master of Science at the University of Lethbridge, Doug Cowell, a research scientist from the Lethbridge Research Centre, and Dr. Sami Simsek from Fırat University in Turkey. We were searching for snails and ants.
Today we were looking for clinging ants. We are studying a system based on the lancet liver fluke, Dicrocyllium dendriticum. The second intermediate host is an ant, Formica species. They cling onto vegetation when they're infected.
The liver fluke is a parasite that is found in the liver of grazing animals such as elk, deer, and cattle. How it completes its life cycle is very interesting.
Eggs are shed into the bile within the liver, which then goes to the feces. The snail ingests the eggs, and the parasite goes through a couple of stages within, or development within the snail, and then eventually is released as a slime ball onto pasture, which is then collected by the ants and brought back to the nest and shared with the nest mates. The parasite primarily insists within the gaster of the ant, with one or two individual parasites making their way to the brain, insisting on the subesophageal ganglion. This encystment alters the behavior of the ants, forcing them to climb up to the top of vegetation and cling on, becoming available for grazing hosts.
We were gathering up clinging and non-clinging ants as well as snails for examination back in the laboratories. Melissa has been working on this project for 2 years.
It's an incredibly fascinating system. It's one of few trematode systems where the entire process or the entire life cycle is entirely terrestrial. The snail hosts are a terrestrial host, or a terrestrial snail. Normally you have an aquatic stage within a parasite of this type, but as I said, this is an entirely terrestrial system, so it is quite unique. It is a host generalist. Other than the altered behavior, that's really unique about this system, but it is a host generalist. So the final host species are incredibly diverse. It's been found in elk, deer, cattle, sheep. It's suggested to also be in rabbits, potentially in squirrels. Infection has been found within mice as well as in hamsters, but those tend to be experimental infections. It's also host generalist in this first intermediate host, the snails. There are over 90 different species of snails that have been found to serve as the intermediate host of this parasite. In terms of the second intermediate host, the ants, we find that they tend to be only within Formica species, but the species of Formica can vary within the system.
How do you find out if an animal is infected?
Right now, the easiest way to find if an animal is infected without killing the host is through fecal analysis. Eggs of this parasite are released in the feces of the animals, and so we can run fecal samples, analyze them, and find the eggs of this parasite. Otherwise, to get a full understanding of what the infection is within the host, you have to dissect the liver.
Where in Canada have infections been found?
Within Canada, Cypress Hills is one of the only areas that we have found such a high prevalence of infection in the final host species. There has been incidents found in Prince Edward Island as well as in BC, but it's just a few hosts have been found to be infected, whereas here we have a prevalence within elk of about 60%, cattle about 80%, and deer around 40 to 60% of the population are infected. Death has been found in sheep as the final host, but not within the hosts that we've found within Cypress Hills.
Can it spread to other areas?
As long as all three host types are available, it's very possible. With the translocation of both wildlife and domestic host species, it could spread to areas like the Porcupine Hills, the Rocky Mountains, the Sweetgrass Hills. It may even be there now, it just hasn't been looked for closely.
Although it's possible for humans to be infected, cases are extremely rare. Farm.tv is brought to you in part by CanadaFarmandRanch.com.